Pink is your favorite, isn't it?
You don't walk into a room without knocking.
Don't ever lock your door on me again, Janice.
The Enterprise makes a rendezvous with the Antares, who is transferring a passenger, a boy named Charlie, who was the lone survivor of a ship crash when he was 3. The Enterprise has orders to take Charlie to a space colony. Charlie has supposedly been without human contact his whole life and seems eager to connect with the people on the Enterprise. He especially latches on to Kirk, immediately adopting him as a father figure. Charlie pulls a 3-eyed raven, and the crewmen who drop him off suddenly start espousing about how nice a boy he is. Well, I guess he's evil. Charlie sees Yeoman Rand, presumably the first woman he's ever met, and is immediately smitten. Bones admits his surprise that Charlie was not only able to sustain himself for 14 years, but that he taught himself to speak as well. Charlie asks Bones if he likes him, and says that he tried to make people like him on the other ship. While exploring the ship, Charlie observes a male crew member give his fellow male crew member a friendly slap on the rear. You came out of a Jeffries tube, not off a baseball diamond after a grand slam. And tries to replicate the moment with Rand. She is not okay with that and asks Charlie to speak with Kirk about why it's inappropriate.
Well, there's no right way to hit a woman.
Yeah, good talk, Jimothy. Meanwhile, Kirk, Spock, and Bones are having a discussion about whether or not a race of legendary aliens called the Thasians could exist on a planet where Charlie was rescued, and whether or not Charlie has had contact with them. Spock believes Charlie couldn't have survived for 14 years on his own, which is proof that the Thasians must have raised him, while Bones doesn't see any reason Charlie would have to lie about being alone. Kirk, Spock, and Bones' differing temperaments and ideologies have a special dynamic when they work in tandem, like 3 parts of a whole. There's a number of ways to read it, but for now I'll explain the Triumvirate in terms by Aristotle. Aristotle believed that there were 3 ways to present an argument, with logos, or cold hard facts and reason, pathos, appeal to emotion and empathy, or ethos, morality and ideals. Spock represents logos, obviously, Bones is pathos, and Kirk, the figure of authority and balance, sits in the middle as ethos, often listening to both sides of the argument and finding the compromise in between. You could also read their dynamic as mind, heart, and soul. Either way, Kirk's gentle amusement at Bones and Spock's bickering is adorable. Bones and Kirk also argue over who should be the one to give Charlie guidance about the facts of life, like human biology. I mean, the biology of humans. You know.
The birds and the bees.
Kirk seems a little gun-shy about being a father figure to someone. Wonder why that could be. Later in the recreation lounge, Spock is idly playing his Vulcan lyre. A small understated detail about Spock's character is that he's an avid musician, hinting to a softer, more sensitive artistic side of him. Uhura begins to sing along, seeming to make up the words on the spot, about how Spock is a devilish heartbreaker. This is the only other time where I could see maybe where someone might see romantic undertones to Spock and Uhura's friendship, but I always read this scene as Spock indulging Uhura in some good-natured teasing. Either way, it's a very cute moment. To be fair, I think everyone's a little bit in love with Uhura. God knows I am. Charlie shows up to meet with Rand, and Uhura begins to make up a song about him being in love with Janice, embarrassing him. Charlie then tries to impress Rand with some card tricks, his behavior growing more and more obsessive. The Antares messages the Enterprise, trying to warn them about something, but their ship suddenly blows up. Charlie seems to know more about it than he's letting on. Later, while Kirk and Spock are playing 3D chess together, Spock again expresses that he's suspicious about Charlie. Also, Kirk beats Spock at chess by playing unconventionally.
I prefer to call it inspired. As you wish.
As you wish.
Kirk's creativity and ability to think on his feet is one of the qualities that makes him such a good captain. Charlie plays a game with Spock, who easily defeats him. Charlie gets bratty about it, and Spock gets annoyed and leaves, and Charlie melts the chess pieces with his mind. Rand starts to get worried about Charlie's obsession with her and asks Kirk to give Charlie a good talking to about respecting a person's wishes when they say no. And here we have one of my favorite discussions about love in all of fiction.
What if you care for someone? What do you do?
You go slow. You be gentle. I mean, it's not a one-way street, you know. How you feel, and that's all. It's how the girl feels, too.
She could love me.
She's not the girl, Charlie.
But if I did what you said, if I was gentle.
Charlie, there are a million things in this universe you can have, and there are a million things you can't have. It's no fun facing that, but that's the way things are.
I feel like this moment is important, not only in the message itself, but also in understanding James Kirk. Kirk is often unfairly painted as a womanizing brute in pop culture, but he's actually a romantic, and more importantly, he respects women and isn't pushy when it comes to seeking affection. As a way to blow off steam, Kirk offers to let Charlie spar with him in the ship's gymnasium, and there's a surprise cameo from the, captain's log.
Oh my.
When Charlie gets taken down easily, another crewman laughs at him. Charlie gets pissed and makes him disappear into thin air, and Kirk finally realizes he's dealing with a bratty, omniscient child. So he does what any reasonable dad would do. Tells Charlie to go to his room.
Go to your quarters or I'll pick you up and carry you there.
Sign me the up. Kirk, Spock, and Bones figure out Charlie must have been what destroyed the Antares and that he must be a sociopath. Or as Spock puts it,
in the hands of an adolescent.
Who gave you permission to be hilarious? They decided they cannot bring Charlie to the space colony to intermix with people as he'd be a danger to them, but Charlie gets wise and takes over the ship. He goes on a rampage, attacking crew members and disfiguring them. He shows up in Janice's quarters and what the hell is she wearing? A pink toga? He tries to romance her again, but when she rejects him, he makes her disappear. He breaks Spock's legs and oh boy, you done messed up now. You do not hurt Spock when Kirk's around. Charlie can't run the Enterprise without Kirk's help, and Kirk says he'll only help Charlie if he fixes Spock's legs. It seems like Kirk's gotten something of a handle on Charlie, but when he and Spock try to trick him into walking into a trap, all bets are off, and Kirk's paternal influence over Charlie is broken, making him just another hurdle in his way. After Charlie takes complete control of the Enterprise, Kirk realizes that Charlie's powers have limits, and that he can't hurt anyone while his powers are tied up in running the ship. The crew start fiddling with the systems to overstimulate Charlie, and it's too much for him to handle. Suddenly, Yeoman Rand appears and everything goes back to the way it was. The Thasians, who had been thought to be just a story, appear to take Charlie with them, having raised him and given him his powers. Charlie begs the Enterprise crew not to let them take him, desperate to be with other humans, claiming that Thasians can't love. Kirk, in an act of great mercy, makes a case for Charlie to be allowed to live with other humans, but the Thasians say that Charlie cannot be taught better and they take him away. While it definitely has its flaws, I would classify Star Trek as feminist media, or proto-feminist at the very least. The way our society treats women today is vastly different than we did in 1966, yet some of the ideas presented in this episode feel like modern feminist rhetoric. Like, please leave a woman alone if she's told you she's not interested in you, or you're not obligated to her affections just because you like her.
She's living her GD life, and it has nothing to do with you. Leave her alone! Okay.
The term incel, or involuntary celibate, was originally created in 1993 by a woman who felt lonely because she was unlucky in finding romantic partners, and wanted to commune with others online who might feel the same way. However, the term was appropriated by a group of mostly, if not entirely, cisgender straight men who felt bitter that women around them were denying them sex and relationships. These groups slowly bred a community of misogyny, male entitlement, and rape culture, sometimes even encouraging real-world violence. In 2014, Elliot Rodger murdered 6 people in Isla Vista, California because he was angry that he was still a virgin at age 22. Before the attack, Rodger published a manifesto online entitled My Twisted World, The Story of Elliot Rodger. In the opening paragraph, Rodger wrote, "All I ever wanted was to fit in and live a happy life amongst humanity, but I was cast out and rejected, forced to endure an existence of loneliness and insignificance, all because the females of the human species were incapable of seeing the value in me." Sound familiar? Charlie isn't completely unworthy of sympathy. After all, he lived his whole life cut off from humans, with aliens who can't give him love. That's got to leave some pretty big psychological scars on someone. But Charlie was told repeatedly to stop harassing Rand, that he had to treat everyone with respect. He ignored them, and then became vengeful and violent toward those around him, thus proving he isn't capable of living with other people since he will inevitably abuse them with his powers. As Kirk and Spock both say, he's a child, only this child has the powers of a god. Speaking of children with godlike powers, 5 years prior to the airing of this episode, The Twilight Zone aired one of its most iconic episodes, It's a Good Life. The episode is about a 5-year-old boy named Anthony with omnipotent powers, who uses them to terrorize the people of his small rural village, horribly mutating and destroying any element of his domain that he doesn't like. The only difference between Anthony and Charlie is that Anthony actually likes music.
Don't make any noise when the music's playing. I don't like any noise when the music's playing.
I swear I didn't start this episode guide just to compare Star Trek with The Twilight Zone.
I'm sorry.
But in It's a Good Life, Anthony's parents and neighbors are all too scared of him to try and fight back. The crew of the Enterprise are scared of Charlie, but Kirk's got over 400 crew members to take care of. He's not gonna lie down and turn his ship over to some bratty child, no matter how powerful he is. The teleplay for Charlie X was written by Trek alumnus D.C. Fontana, and was conceived by Gene Roddenberry himself, under the working title, The Day Charlie Became God. But we'll see more about a man becoming a god in the next episode. Subscribe to this channel to get updated when that review comes out. Thanks for watching.